This video is to review Big Ideas Lesson 6.1. The essential question is, how do you convert between percents and decimals? Summary. When you're writing percents as decimals, you remove the percent symbol. Then you divide by 100 or just move the decimal point 2 places to the left. When you're writing decimals as percents, you multiply by 100 or just move the decimal point 2 places to the right, then add a percent symbol. Write the percent as a decimal. So remember, we're going to remove the percent symbol, then we're dividing by 100, which just means we're moving the decimal place 2 places to the left. So if we have the percent 19%, we would change that into the decimal 0 and 1900ths. So here's my decimal point, and I'm going 2 to the left. 2% again, here's my decimal point, I'm going 2 to the left. I have to fill in a 0 for that place. So I have 0 and 200, 7 and 5, 7.5%, 7.5%. Again, we're going to go 2 places, so I'm going to fill in a 0. So I have 75 thousandths. Write the decimal as a percent. So again, to do this, we're going to multiply by 100 or just move the decimal point 2 places to the right and then add that percent symbol. So 2 places, so I end up with 89, put on my percent symbol. 2 places, I end up with 54%. 2 places, don't get tricked on ones that look like this, I end up with 10%. Write 1 and 8/10 as a fraction or mixed number in simplest form and a percent. Okay? So the decimal 1 and 8/10 can be written as the fraction 1 and 8/10, but 8/10 can be simplified. The 8 and 10 have a common factor of 2. So if I divide, I end up with 4/5. So my simplified fraction is 1 and 4/5. And then my percent, remember when we go from a decimal to a percent, I'm moving my decimal point 2 to the right, and so my percent would be 180%. Write 664 thousandths as a fraction in simplest form and a percent. So I'm going to first write what that is. So 664 thousandths, that's this fraction unsimplified. So I did a little bit of work to figure out the greatest common factor. And I know I could divide by 2, but I wanted to see if there was another number that I could also use. And 8 is actually a common factor for these two numbers. 664 divided by 8 is 83. 1,000 divided by 8 is 125. I know that 83 is a prime number, so this is the simplest form then. And then when I go from my decimal to my percent, remember I'm going 2 places to the right. So I end up with 64 and 4/10%. All right, this is just an example of a graph where you might see some percents. So this is golf and looking at different outcomes on different holes. And so let's just say we're going to look at par. So that's represented by that green, it's 42%. So I can write that. Here's my percent. If I want to change it to a decimal, it would look like 0 and 42 hundredths. And then as a fraction, 42 hundredths. This is not simplified yet. Both of the common factor that these two share is 2. So this can be simplified to 21/50ths. Your job today is to do the Big Ideas Lesson 6.1 assignment. For most problems, there will be no work to show, so you do not need to submit anything. And then if you didn't already, you're going to look for a real-world example of a percent. You're going to share your example to the Canvas announcement for today. You can post a photo or just type your example a place that you might see a percent. Have a great day.